Hello, everyone. My name is Yao Enin. I am the manager of economic development at Dufferin County, and this presentation is on sustainability, specifically climate. And so decisions related to growth management, land use, and community energy have a significant impact on emissions and our resilience to climate change. As Dufferin County's population is expected to exceed 100,000 individuals, it's important to plan for sustainable growth and climate resiliency. What type of programs can we implement to advance climate resiliency practices within new and redevelopment proposals? And how do we encourage developers to integrate climate resilience into their projects? So these are two main questions that we want to keep in mind as we go through these slides. So some of the high-level things that I'll be touching on in this presentation are guidelines for sustainable growth and climate resilience, adaptive strategies for climate change, as well as incentives for developers to participate in climate resilience. Current land use and development practices in Ontario pose challenges. Urban sprawl drives up infrastructural costs, diminishes farmland, and harms the environment. It also intensifies greenhouse gas emissions due to unplanned urbanization and inefficient land use. Inadequate sustainable design and resilience measures makes communities vulnerable to climate change impacts. I think these are all things that we are all sort of aware of. And so all these, how can we solve these issues? I think one of the main things is by establishing development guidelines. Developing a comprehensive and standardized framework to provide clear guidance and requirements for climate resilience considerations in land development. And how would this play out? This can play out in a number of ways. It can include adopting green building practices, using renewable energy sources, and implementing sustainable transportation solutions. And so the next slide here, we're talking about strategies, right? How can developers and municipalities as well balance economic growth with environmental sustainability in their projects? From a community perspective, the benefits of green standards are vast, right? And so you have to think of it as, are you trying to help developers through policies? Are you trying to mandate policies through the official plan, or are you trying to incentivize things, right? And so here we can think about policies and regulations that incentivize sustainable practices, as well as establish requirements to consider climate impacts in their project design, such as green development standards and low impact development standards. And so, green development standards have a number of benefits. And I talk a little bit about that in this slide here. Climate change mitigation, right? This means the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions through energy efficient buildings and sustainable transportation options. Promotion of renewable energy sources and reduction of reliance on fossil fuels. Climate resiliency. This is the integration of climate change considerations into development decisions to improve community resilience. Implementation of green infrastructure to manage stormwater, reduce flood risks, and address heat island effects. As well, protection and restoration of natural habitats, leading to enhanced biodiversity and ecosystem services. And C, economic growth. There are long-term cost savings for individuals as well as municipalities through the construction of energy-efficient buildings and infrastructure. Municipalities can also focus their economic development efforts in the creation of green jobs and workforce skills development in renewable energy and sustainable industries. There is also an increase in market demand for sustainable development, which can result in increased values for such properties, a message that municipalities can carry over to developers. By integrating a cohesive climate change framework, Dufferin County can manage its growth, while working towards achieving the goal of net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050, thereby ensuring a thriving and climate resilient community. And that concludes my presentation.